Hi, and welcome to the third episode of the Cabinet Con. This episode is called B is for Brave. I'm your host, Kyle O'Donnell. Today is Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. Our next episode will air on Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. To skip this intro, which includes this week's prize winners, shout-outs, the disclaimer, and next week's quiz, skip forward to about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Last week's quiz winner was Jennifer from Florida, who actually knows one of the victims, and she was super stoked that we're doing this case to, reveal some of the issues that are, deeply important in a place full of both very destructive storms as well as, the elderly people that are targeted in the wake of those storms. Hopefully we can raise some awareness in that area and across various other states that, are frequented by criminals who perpetrate similar crimes in small and mid-sized communities. That's who we're here for. We're here for you guys. For this week's quiz, find and follow me on Twitter at Kyle O'Donnell, where I'll post this week's questions. Answer the following questions completely, correctly, and before next week's episode, and I'll reward you with free access to my latest documentary, Big Trouble in Little Quartzsite. Here are the questions. According to the lady in my next interview, who showed up in court for Robert Stoll? In other words, I'm asking who was on Robert Stoll's side when he appeared in front of the judge? Second question. Okay, so the lady in my interview, how did she find out where Robert Stoll got his cabinets? It's actually kind of a funny story. Third question. Who paid Robert Stoll's restitution payments? B mentions that someone paid for Stoll's court-ordered restitution. Who was she referring to? Send your answers to thejusticepod@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter at Kyle O'Donnell for these questions. I'll post these there just in the event that you didn't get time to digest them all right here. Based on last week's vote, you guys told me that you wanted me to interview another witness rather than the, go ahead with the final episode of Micah's interview. So that next witness is coming up right now in this episode. Thanks so much for your votes on that. I appreciate you guys telling me what you want to hear. Stay tuned at the end of this episode to hear next week's vote. Very important. And speaking of votes on Twitter, on the last vote, you guys overwhelmingly voted that I should reach out to other victims. So to backtrack to last episode, Micah had begun to describe the scene in the courtroom where Robert Stoll was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years in prison and 25 years of probation. This was understandably a relief for the victims. In that episode, she also referred to a lady that got up and talked about her story. She read a letter in court, in open court. For the record, that's the lady I reached out to. I reached out to her, and this next episode is the recording of our conversation. I hope you enjoy that.
Hello.
Hi, Bia.
Yes.
Hi, it's Kyle O'Donnell. How you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
I am well. Is now a good time?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And my name's B.
B, okay.
Uh-huh.
I saw it on court documents as Beatrice, and so I didn't know if it's Bia because I had an old friend named Bia.
Really?
Bia Beatrice.
I've never heard that before, but it is Spanish, Beatriz, and so most people slaughter it, so I just went with B, which really pissed my mom off, but
You actually pronounced it Castellano.
Sí, es Castellano.
Sí.
Yeah, I'm Spanish, so
yeah.
I was born there.
Nice. Well, yeah. I understand formal Spanish, right? Like, so I get along pretty well I've never been to Spain, but I get along pretty well in the more formal speaking countries like Costa Rica and Peru. They're very formal,
Mm-hmm.
so I do pretty well there.
Con Castellano, yeah. That's awesome. That's right. So where are you located? Wow. So how did you hear about all this?
Micah I went to high school with her, and I am a documentary filmmaker, and I released a film, and so I showed it to all my friends. You can't give it to everybody, but you send it out to the people that you want to give sneak previews to. And she was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy! You would be so good at telling this one story that I've got for you."
That's awesome. And I will be honest, I did not look at your thing yet because I have been inundated with school, and it's just kind of crazy.
I'm a teacher too. I get it. I just kind of assume that if people are even half as busy as I am, I should just lay down a layer of forgiveness right up front.
Yeah, I know, right? Sorry, not yet, but yeah, I totally get it. What do you teach?
I teach journalism. I teach undergrad and graduate level journalism, communications, filmmaking, photography, anything media or communication related.
That's awesome. Well, I'm a teacher. I'm an ESOL teacher, so English speakers of other languages for K through 12. Mm-hmm. I've got more kids in my school that are ELs than anybody else in the county. So it's a high population. And then I'm also a photographer. I do that on the side. And so,
very cool.
Just
very
a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm.
I taught next to, most of my teaching career has been overseas. And so I taught next to a lot of English and ESL instructors as well. But when I didn't teach this, when I was still teaching other things, it was environmental science. I used to be a scientist when I lived in Alaska, and which kind of connected me to Asia, which was my first job. I took a job teaching at the satellite campus of the University of Alaska in Thailand. And it was just it just got the ball rolling. I stayed abroad and stayed teaching. I finished one master's degree over there and finished my latest one back in the States. But the sister campus of that one was the American University in Bulgaria. So then I went to teach there. So,
wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a neat decade or so.
Yeah. So you said you read the court documents, so that's already been out there? I mean, I haven't even looked or anything like that.
Well, I looked at what was sent to me by Micah. She seems to have a pretty good, I mean, I could get them if I needed more, but I haven't found yet where I needed more, so I haven't validated the $30 per page fee that the courts charge for it. So,
cow.
Yeah, I think she went down there and just was looking at them and just snapped a bunch of pictures. I don't think she actually, I think she might have got a victim's copy. Now that I think of it. A victim's
copy? I didn't even know that was available.
Well,
really?
Yeah, I'm sure that if your name is on a court document and you were in that court, they usually have you wait around till afterward to give you that paperwork. And at that time, you can request to look at the entire document. You might still be able to do that now as a victim's advocate. Like there's probably a victim's advocate center or something. Most courts have that.
It was quite an ordeal, let me tell you.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. It went on for a long time. In fact,
2.5 years.
Oh, just for you?
Yes, because I signed the contract with him in January. It was supposed to have been completed mid-February, and it was just, and a single mom, and my kids were grown, thank God. But just dealing with all that was just so stressful. And I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. I did my homework on him. But I really didn't know a lot. I didn't know where to go. So I thought, well, Better Business Bureau. Well, I've learned so much about the Better Business Bureau. I was giving them information that they didn't know. And so, it was pretty traumatic. Now, from talking to the other victims, I didn't have it as bad as some of them did. Right. Like what he did and the way he talked to them. With me, he was very friendly, but some of them, he just downright, they said, well, we're going to call the police. And he told them, well, I know people in the police department. I'll never spend a day in jail. Just very arrogant.
I wonder if they were there that day in court.
Yes, they were, because we sat around beforehand. We didn't know who we were. We had to meet at the district attorney's office, and so we were just very quiet. And then the secretary would come out and say, "Are you be bailing?" I'm like, "Yes." She goes, "Okay, this is what's going to happen." And then she'd say, "Hey, are you so and so?" So we kind of gathered. Oh, we're all in here together. So it was pretty.
It's like a muster.
It was, and it was honestly the end of it was like something right out of a movie where you're like, justice is served. It was just that great feeling, which everybody's like, you're not going to get anything out of it. He's not going to do any time. Just that whole thing, and you just never know. So
wow. So it kind of needed its own soundtrack then.
It did,
like a triumphant, like a journey song or something,
right? So I think initially there were 20 victims that I know of in talking to some of the investigators. Of course, not everybody came forward, whatever. And only in the courtroom, there was only like 10 of us. 4 or 5 others submitted statements. And I had told her, when they finally told me that here's the docket, we're going to be in court on this date, I was like, hallelujah. And I said, can I read a statement? Can I talk? I want to go first, because when I'm done, everybody else is going to say, oh, I don't have anything to say. She said it all. But it was, I did get to speak first, but I think the most impressive thing for me was that district attorney. She was sharp. She was very sharp, young, but sharp. And she wanted to do a display of force when we first got in. And so we all stood up, and the judge was like, wow, because we filled up the whole pew in the back. So just to let him know. And he not once looked at us. Not one time. Not once.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, how remorseful he was. He never turned around and said, I'm sorry. No.
Oh, I thought you meant the judge didn't look at you once. I was like, damn it.
No. The Robert Stoll didn't look at us once.
Why would he be remorseful? Just because you guys caught him doesn't mean, and just because you guys spent a year, two and a half years with him doesn't mean he wasn't doing this for. I've got this guy's entire docket. He was in and out of court before he was even married back in 97. He's my age. He was born the same year as me. And he was in the first time he went to, I can't remember if it was jail or court, but his first brush with court, he had 2 in 97 and 98, and then got married in 98, was divorced within a couple years and remarried, and then just has a slew of offenses. Various criminal traffic, et cetera, and civil. In any case, I was curious. You mentioned that some of his cop buddies were there in court. Tell me about that.
Not his cop buddies. No, only we were there. He said that he would never do a day in jail because he had police friends that were police. Yeah, and that's what he told the one victim. So I didn't see any cop buddies there. The only we saw a couple inmates that were waiting for their trial, because we actually, I think we were like the 3rd or 4th case, because we were so big. There was such a big ordeal with us.
So he was just basically blowing smoke. He was just trying to.
Right. Well, telling the judge that, yes, he's remorseful and he does want to do restitution and blah, blah, blah. And if she had his rap sheet, I'm sure all that was on there, because I didn't know any of that either. All I know was the district attorney had said, if you were, his excuse was that he felt overwhelmed. And so her question to him was, well, when you took out the license in 2019 or 17, and you became overwhelmed, why'd you take out 2 more business licenses? Why didn't you just give people their money back? And so that I was thankful that she had enough foresight to call him out on that, right. Because if you did feel overwhelmed, wouldn't you give people their money back, right? Yeah. And for me, the struggle when we first started was that they said that it was a civil rights, civil. I'd have to take him to court. Well, yeah. I'm a single mom. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money, hardly any. And so for me to even think of that, it was just so depressing, because all I wanted was my dream kitchen. I've been in this house for 28 years. I just wanted to update my kitchen. I had actually wanted to renovate my bathroom too, to do a walk-in shower when my parents come to visit, because they're elderly. And I refinanced my house in order to make this happen. And when he started, came over to take measurements, and I told him that I'd mentioned, he'd go, oh, well, we can look at that too. And I'm like, just something in my head said, no, let's just do one thing at a time. And and he saw my big high-profile van in the driveway. He's like, wow, that's beautiful. Do you want to sell it? I'm like, no. That was kind of an awkward question, but no. No. And I'm glad I didn't, because Grand Theft Auto. And then I don't know if you read that part of it, where he worked for a dealer for like 2 months, and he was pocketing all the down payments people were making, and he stole 2 cars and sold them. And that was the 5 other years of the probation. So he got 20 years for us, and 5 for that dealer. And our accounts were so much higher that she placed more importance on ours. And I guess in the state of Florida too, I'm sorry, I'm rambling all over the place. If you're over 60 years old, if you commit a crime against someone who's 60 or older, that carries more weight also. And so,
and that's with good cause. Florida's one big retirement community, as far as I remember. And I did hear about the car dealer situation. Micah did tell me a little bit about that. I didn't know that they had tried him for that at the same time. So that was just a basic, it would be the equivalent to a class action if it was a civil suit. But it ended up being, I think probably, I'll have to check with Mrs. Norwalk on this one. Hannah, I did speak with her. She and her supervisor, who I'm assuming is also a district attorney, are going to sit down with me and hammer out those details. So it'd be good I'll ask them what exactly was the classification of that case, because it turned out to be you had civil judgments, everybody was given restitution, and there was also a criminal contingent to that where he was sentenced to 10 years. So that's interesting.
And in the state of Florida, there's no chance for parole, which to me was music to my ears.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have much of a pattern to show that he wouldn't be doing it anymore. So yeah, it's probably a good thing that he's.
But you don't understand. His family is involved in that too. His brother does the same kind of thing. So he was talking about going into business with his brother. His brother did that. The investigating officer I talked to said that several years before that, they had helped him investigate his boss, who was doing the same thing. So he knew all the loopholes, which is exactly was part of my statement. He knew exactly what he was doing. So he just got greedy.
Let's pause on that for a second. Now, Micah indicated that there were people involved in this. Is it possible that his former boss trained him, brought him into the business?
Yeah. I believe so.
And what makes you think that?
Because of what the investigator told me that he had, he worked with his boss, and then the investigators used him to help, get his boss. Now I don't know the details of that one. I just know that that's what one of the investigating officers told me. So
but there's a history there, and he basically picked up where the other guy left off. What do you remember his boss's name?
I'm sorry?
Do you remember the name of that person?
No, I don't know his boss's name. Yeah. I just know, so I don't know if you know how the Better Business Bureau works. Do you know anything about them?
I mean, I know that they're a reporting agency that tries to kind of act like an old school Angie's List.
Right. Well, what happens is when you file a complaint, so I looked him up, and the only complaint so far at that point was that he wasn't returning phone calls, right? Okay. So I asked him about that, and of course he explained that away with, my phone this, my phone that, whatever. So then they send a letter to the business, and they give them 2 or 3 opportunities to make it right with the client, right? And then when they don't respond back, and of course each one of these takes time in between. When they don't respond back, that's when they close the case and give them a rating. At that point, when I looked him up, he didn't have a rating, but of course he has an F rating now. But so there were so many of those cases. Like I was giving. When I didn't hear back from him again, when he wasn't replying to calls or texts, my daughter and I went over to where his storefront was, and there was a rent sign on the store, and I'm like, that MFer, I swear to God. So we called the number, and we were talking to the owner of the building, and his wife was screaming in the background. She was like, he hadn't paid us rent in months, and he's already set up a new storefront. And sure enough, when we went to see the new storefront, there was no sign on the outside, but all the sample cabinets and all that were inside. And so I gave that information to the Better Business Bureau. And I think because there were so many people that had filed a complaint, that's when they turned it over to the district attorney's office. And that's when they got involved.
It's so strange that this person never, I mean, it's so short-sighted that this person never thought that people would come for their money. I mean, like, he wasn't just short-sighted and like hoping they wouldn't. He was brazen about it.
Right.
You're telling me his attitude was like, piss off. I'm not, you're not going to get me. It's just, you're going to chase me through civil court, and I got friends in the police department,
Right.
blah, blah, blah.
No, he wasn't like that with me. He was very respectful and, blah, blah, blah. But I told him at the very beginning, I said, Robert, I'm a disabled veteran. I'm a single mother. I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. I need you to do right by me. And he looked me right in the eye and he said, yes, Miss B, I will. And I was like, even in court, I told him, shame on you. Shame on you. Not that, whatever.
Yeah.
It made me feel good.
Yeah. It's probably like he's just going to cry himself to sleep that night on his prison pillow or something.
And one of the officers said he's a meth head too. So, yeah, I don't know. I just can't. I don't know. It's just beyond me how people can do that. They're not entitled to my money. Why would they think they're entitled to my hardworking money?
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, that's so there was some speculation in the the talk I had with Micah that we were wondering where all this money went, because he basically lives in a beat up trailer, and his vehicles are in like, kind of repair mode, and and Micah basically stalked this guy, tracked him down, and found out everything.
Yeah, she told me.
And
but it's $97,000 he took.
97. Wow. Well, she thought it was like 80, but I guess
nope. It's 97.
6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Once you've got 16 people on the hook. So, but I was curious. The speculation I was referring to was we were talking about how he's spending that if his cars don't reflect the $6,000 he takes from people each time, and the house he lives in is got holes in it from. I don't make any judgments against people who live in trailers, right?
Right.
But his looked like it had been through a storm, and he just never did anything about it. I mean, you would think that if he was ripping people off, he would be living in a couple rungs higher than squalor. But he really, his house.
He was a meth head.
In this interview, Bea revealed that she was a photographer.
I've been shooting pictures since I was 14 years old. I was developing my own film and pictures when we were stationed in Germany.
She says she's very personable with her approach to her clients.
I try to connect to my client. I look at them and see what their personality is all about and try to bring that out in the film. Those little aha moments just mean everything to me.
So I thought it might be a cool idea to maybe attract some awareness of her business for the show.
I'm not expensive. I'm affordable. I'm down to earth. And I like shooting in different venues.
I asked her why someone should choose her over another photographer. And she said,
because I'm that crazy photographer that jumps up and down for joy when I get a shot that I call the money shot. That is really the best shot ever. And I will show it to you. A lot of photographers won't do that. I do the personal touch. For me, it is personal.
If you're moved by her story and you've got an event coming up that you need captured in pictures, why not reach out to Bea? You can reach Bea on her Facebook page, Bea Bailey Photography. Keep in mind she hasn't done this for a while because she's been dealing with all this craziness, so she might not have a whole lot of recent posts, but maybe you can help her out with that. Again, find her at Bea Bailey Photography on Facebook, and that's spelled BeaBailey Photography. You can also find that in the description. At Legally Insane Films, our mission is to expose injustice and celebrate those fighting it. If you're enjoying this show where we do just that, consider giving us a tip of $3, $5, or $9, and we'll reward you with varying levels of access to everything that goes on behind the scenes. Everyone listening right now is enjoying the full episodes, voting rights, live stream access with the crew, all of everything we have. If you head over to legallyinsanefilms.com and click Join the Fan Club, for the cost of a small latte, $3, you'll support everything we do, and you'll also make us smile from ear to ear. We really enjoy seeing new fan club members join the ranks. It's really spectacular. You should see it. $3 is the patrol level membership, but the $5 investigator level gets knee deep with our cases. They see behind the scenes stuff, extended interviews, case files, crew meetings where we talk about the cases, All very exciting. We're looking for web sleuths, so if you want to donate at that $5 level, we'd love to have you. Now, back to the show. And so what did the officer say about that? What kind of testimony did he give to say that he was on meth?
So this was just a conversation I had over the phone with the investigator. Okay. I said, I don't understand how somebody can act like that. He said he's a meth head. He has no remorse. He has no, feeling that he's doing anybody wrong. And I'm like, well, that just blows my mind because, he has a child. He's had other children. And, I don't know what he did to support them. I know his wife is the one that took out the business license in her name, so that nothing could be tracked back to him, whatever. But it's just things like that. And just, like I said, the day that we went to see the storefront, I went dumpster diving right next to his business, and there was a furniture box in there, and I called that company and I asked them if they had done business with him, and they're like, yeah, but we haven't heard from him in a long time. I said, well, if I were you, I wouldn't do any more business with him because he's in jail, because he's ripping people off. And they're like, we'll make note of that, thank you. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I even asked him, where did you get the cabinets from? Oh, I can't tell you that because you'd be in direct competition with me. I'm a teacher. I have no business in wanting to do cabinet work for anybody. Yeah. He wouldn't tell me where. But the night that, after waiting for it to come in and waiting, he called me up at 8:00 and said, oh, we're in I think he said Evergreen, Alabama or whatever. We're picking up so we'll get back really late. I can bring it tomorrow. I said, no. You can bring the boxes over tonight. I'll wait. It's okay. I think it was earlier than that, but he showed up. I think it was late. And I said, is everything here? Yes, it's all here. And in my mind, in hindsight, of course, I wish once he even assembled everything, I wish, even asked him, is everything there? Yes, it's all here. I wish he would have said, okay, this piece goes where? That, but you don't think about those kind of things. You expect that they're in your home and they're going to be doing right by you. And it was just killed my dream of having my dream kitchen. I had taken everything out of my kitchen for 6 weeks. The cabinets were still there. Thank God I didn't do anything with those. But I had to finally put stuff back in my kitchen because I had family coming and everything was stored in the spare bedroom. So it was just so depressing to not hear back. And yeah, I'll be there tomorrow when he did. And,
right.
Or my installer, he hurt his ankle, or he found out he has cancer, or he's really sick. And can you pay part of it in cash so that maybe that'll entice him to show up tomorrow? And he has all the hardware for the cabinets, and just one thing after the other like that. It was depressing. Yeah, very depressing.
Wow.
That somebody could do that,
The prosecutor, just very briefly when I was speaking to her, she told me that he had only really been sentenced recently, even though the case was in March, or the hearing was in March. Or not the hearing, the trial, I guess. Is that correct? Did you guys actually have the trial in March?
Yes. Okay. In Escambia County, right. Well, so when they caught him and put him in jail, he, of course, pled not guilty, which, again, I'm an honest person. That just blows my mind. And they delayed the trial. Well, he pled not guilty. They turned around and slapped handcuffs on him for grand theft auto and for selling the vehicle. So that's why he stayed in jail. He was on a no bond. So he was there for two and a half years. I believe it was 2.5 years. Was he in jail? So he was in jail this entire time. When Micah and I were talking, and I promise I'll get back to the chronology of this. Well, but she said that there was another man that his businesses kind of led back to, and his name was Michael McKay. Have you heard that name throughout this case? No.
Not at all? Okay.
No.
Well, there's a connection there, and the connection starts actually in Ohio. This McKay character as far as we can tell from the documents and stuff that I've got, it appears that this individual started investment companies. It was all fronts. They were all frauds, and just got real deep to the point that there were potentially like commercials on TV for law firms. Like, have you been scammed by this man? Call us at 800 blah blah blah. You know, like he was really running around Ohio dropping some serious coin from folks, and
Wow.
and so he abandoned ship in Ohio, comes down to Florida, meets up with Stoll, and from what it appears, they were in business together, and this time that Stoll was ripping people off overlaps with that time that their businesses had both their names on it. So and
well, maybe that was the boss that he helped investigate.
It could be. Well, where I'm going with this is that the email address attached to that business, the one that was supposed to have gone down when Stoll went to jail, I emailed that, and they emailed back.
Really?
Yeah. So they're still trying to do their thing, and not only that, but the email's real paranoid. I mean, They questioned who I was, and I'm confused. Who are we talking to? And I'm like, that's kind of a strange question for a potential customer. Who am I talking to? Like, you didn't even sign your email. So yeah, they're still at it. And so before I talk to the district attorney, what I'm hoping to do is speak to a few more victims that can potentially make that connection, and we might actually be able to pin some charges on this guy. If I can work with the prosecutor, I'll go down there and I'll buy cabinets myself and just see what happens. I'll get the budget together, I'll order them, and if they do the same thing to me, I'll just record every interaction I have with them. I'll make an op-doc for the New York Times out of it. You know what I mean? Right.
Well, now, in some of the victims, I don't know who, but some of them said that when he was talking about, this is what he's telling the judge, that he would go work for his brother. They told me that he does the same kind of stuff. And so I was like, wow, so just let him out of jail. I mean, I really believe that he thought he was going to get out. He really did.
Was he shocked at the verdict?
So he was his back was to us,
yeah.
Right? And we were all watching him. So as soon as he said something, he just kind of like straightened up a little bit, like, holy crap, I've been caught. It was that kind of reaction. Wow. I don't think he expected to do time, because they read a letter from his wife saying that his mom is elderly and he's a good father and they really need him at home. And if you could have seen all of the victims, I mean, I'm looking at from the side at everybody, and we're all just shaking our head like, Right. Like, I can't believe they'd even say that. But yeah, I think he really thought he was going to get away, because he just wanted, well, I'll make restitution, sure, I'll pay. And I think Micah said that the grandmother paid because they took him to civil court, and there was another set of victims that took him to court too. And I think she said the grandmother made a couple payments but didn't pay anything else. So I'm sure they're real proud of him. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if his brother is involved, and from what I can look at the documentation, these names are connected. I haven't paid a PI or anything to actually make these connections for me, but the last names are the same or similar. They're the ones commenting on, not similar. Their last names are the same. A lot of them are the same. And then they'll go on and they'll make positive remarks to make his business look good, like he's actually legit. And then you go back and you look at these names, and they're just people that he knows or is related to or has worked with.
Holy cow.
And this McKay character, and this is why I was kind of curious to find out what witnesses were there on his behalf. This McKay was listed as one of his witnesses, as one of his the defendant's witnesses. So,
well, if I could see a picture, I could tell you, because there were other trials going on. I didn't know who was there for him. His family didn't show up, as far as I know. Nobody went over and talked to his lawyer. So I was kind of wondering why nobody was there for him. But but there were other people sitting around, but they may have been there for the other inmates that were, over there.
Right. So
but
this guy, I can describe
you may want
him.
to ask the district attorney's office if you can have, unless you have the names and numbers of the investigating officers that helped with all this.
Yeah, I'll definitely be doing that. But so if I described him for you, I don't know if you have a good memory of who was there, but this guy McKay, he's about, I think, from my recollection of his jail mug intake paperwork, he's bald. He kind of looks like a human turtle a little bit. He's
like a human what?
A human turtle. He's bald. He's got kind of a beak on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got zero hair on his head. The cue ball, like he took a Bic razor to it. He's about 5'9". He's probably 180. I think he's not a big guy. But
I don't remember seeing anybody like that. Literally, it was all of us victims on the very back row against the wall, and there were two other young ladies in the, I call them the pews in front of us, mm-hmm. to the right, and one guy, but that's all. I didn't see anybody else.
Well, they probably cleared the docket for you guys. I mean, I assume that was going to be pretty long. How long was the actual trial?
When we got there were two inmates sitting there in their little box, you know, and I think she said she had 7 cases that day. I'm not sure, but she said she was going to take us last because we were pretty big, because it was us and then the guy that owned the car lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when we sat there for a couple of cases, and then she handed down a sentence for them, and she was a good judge. I was really impressed with her. She was no bullshit. She was really good. And then, she was going to have to step away to another court case in another room at 12, but she ended up clearing that one because she wanted to get to us. And so when she did ours, they had brought in 2 female inmates that were going to go through, and ours took a while because.
How long was?
How many?
Do you remember how long you were in there? I mean, just your trial.
So, hey babe, how long was I in that courtroom for? Do you remember? Was like 3 hours or something like that. Yeah, we were pretty much there all day. We had to be there. I have my notes, and I could look at my notes. She wanted us to meet in the district attorney's office so she could go over what was going to go on, what we could expect.
Okay.
She wanted to do that show of force when she got to do her opening statement. She goes, I'd like you to know just how many people this really impacted right here if you all would stand up. And we're 10 of us back there across that whole last pew against the wall. So it was pretty impressive. That was pretty impressive. And only 7 of us, I think, gave statements. Yeah, I'm trying to recall right now. But I got to go first. And then, I tried to be brave. Then I heard my voice crack, and I cried. And I didn't want to cry. I was so angry at myself because it was just so emotional. And I told her, the judge, I said, this was more than just business for me. This was personal. It wasn't business. This was personal. And so the district attorney used that line, and so did the defense attorney. He is remorseful, and like I said, it's personal, it's not business. I'm like, how dare you use my line? But it was, I don't know, just to know. And the district attorney said, he can either do time, or she might have him, get out and do restitution. And all the victims were like, we want him to do time. We want him to do time. Pretty much, 20 years from now, I'm going to expect, or 25 years, I'm going to expect, restitution. But that judge went and broke it down. I wrote it down, who was getting what and how much, every month for however long it takes. I was pretty impressed. Mine was going to be $27 a month. Whatever.
Wow.
I'm out $6,400. So it's just, I know I'm not going to get that back. I didn't have enough kitchen cabinets to complete even one side of my kitchen, and all the hardware is missing, and the drawers, and with the promise that I had everything. And so they've been sitting in my dining room for 2.5 years, because one of the victims tracked down where he got them from, and they were actually from New Orleans. There's a cabinet maker down there from New Orleans. And so they, of course, want money to replace what I need, and then the countertop. So my kitchen is still, whatever.
I wonder if we could, by way of, I'm just going to spitball here for a second because you got my creative mind flowing. Mm-hmm. I wonder if we could get all these victims together and I could interview you guys and take your statements and go down to New Orleans to this company and say, look, these guys were screwed royally by this guy. What can you do for the victims? Can you guys do a discount, or can you donate? I wonder if we can get them to do that.
You know what I got the feeling of? And I'm going to say this off the record. But if you wanted to do something like that, I would certainly love to be a part of that.
Yeah, because you've never gotten yours done yet, have you?
Nope. But some of the victims, he came in and ripped out their kitchen cabinets and threw them in the front yard and cut their PVC pipes so they had no water or electricity for 3 months in their kitchen. And wow. He walked away from it. Left it there. So when I say I feel fortunate, I still have my old cabinets and my running water and electricity.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate for that. He didn't take it to that level.
These guys were at what stage? Because, so as I have kind of been able to hammer it down, there's mm-hmm. 3 stages to this con. The first one is when you give them a deposit, and that's usually he just stops right there, kind of hoping that you go away because the deposit isn't really enough to put him in jail. But mm-hmm. then when you come back and you complain, he says, oh, sorry about that. Had some issues with shipping or something. Give me a little more money and I'll pay a guy to go out and measure. And then they go to measure and then they get a little more money from you. Still not enough to be a felony, but enough to maybe be annoying. And then the final time, the customers that keep bitching, I'll say, to put it in his perspective, perhaps. Then he's like, stop contacting me. He kind of gets more aggressive. And if they keep doing it, he shows up at their house, takes 80% of the money, and then yanks their kitchen apart and leaves it in the front yard. Does that sound like?
To me, he was getting ready to install their cabinets, and from what I understand. So for me, I was shopping for cabinets.
That's the impression he wants to give you. I guess that's what I'm saying. That's the pattern.
Right. So for me, I was shopping for cabinets. I visited the storefront. When I had called around, he wasn't the lowest, but of course, he wasn't the most expensive. He was closer to the lower end. And for my budget, that's what would have worked for me, right? I wasn't expecting anything, like huge. And so then I went to his store. So I went to the storefront, talked to him about the cabinets. He came out to measure, didn't want any money. So when I went back to the storefront to say, okay, this is what I want and sign the contract, that was in January, and he was supposed to be completed by like the 20th of February, something like that. And the strange thing is, when I was sitting there talking to him, going over the contract, this woman and husband came in and sat down behind me, and I looked at her face, and if looks could kill, she'd have killed him on the spot. Because, whenever. So I signed the documents, and when you sign it, you had to pay a certain percentage, 80%. Okay, so I left, and on the way out, I heard her. I couldn't hear what she said, but he said, "Ma'am, I don't do refunds or something like that. But let's see what we can work out." She was pissed about something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the other deposit came when the cabinet showed up, and he So then I had to pay another deposit when they came to put them together. The final installment was going to be what constituted the countertop and installing everything, which that part didn't happen. So I made 3 deposits to him, the tune of $6,400 for that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was just constant. Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow, Ms. B. I'll be there tomorrow, Ms. B. You know, oh, my installer's sick, or he's got cancer, and you know, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You know, playing on just, I don't know.
Playing on your emotions.
Yeah.
Making it harder for the honest people in the world to actually get sympathy for their legitimate causes, probably. Right. All the while knowing he's never going to deliver on this thing.
Exactly. And I don't trust any independent contractors anymore. And if they talk to me about, I got to have 80%, no, that's not going to happen anymore. No.
Yeah.
I've lost all faith in that.
You just can't.
And it's sad that we've come to that, honestly.
Really
but
it's a shame.
People that prey on, and you know, like I said, some of the victims, one of them has passed away already, from what I understand. This lady was there. And it's just, when you prey on old people that are on a fixed income and are wanting to do something, or like me, I'm 59 and a half, so I'm not quite 60 yet, but this was a dream for me. I've been divorced to a really not so nice person, but I have 3 beautiful children who are all successful. They've all got their degrees. They've never been in jail. You know, no grandbabies, just fur babies. So I've worked hard. I worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. And I'm a disabled veteran and a teacher. This is my 25th year of teaching. I work really hard to be a community helper, and help the people that I can. I don't have any money. And so all I wanted was, really, I don't have a fancy house, 1,600 square feet. I just wanted an updated kitchen. I just wanted that so badly. And that just killed my dream. I just couldn't believe that somebody could do that. And I told the judge, I'm not naive. I did my homework, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Well,
your homework is not enough.
Well, when it's a legitimate con, what's a legitimate con? When it's when it is an active con, you know, when someone's actually out there building up the front, right? Literally the storefront all the way to the internet front. You know, that's what they're doing. They're preempting your search, right? So yeah, when you went and looked, you found what they wanted you to find. I mean, it's no mistake that this guy wound up with 16 people in the courtroom going against him. It's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So, you know, probably, you weren't the only one, if I can offer a condolence, but I know that doesn't mean much, but,
no, but I mean, it's nice to know that, okay, you weren't such a big sucker, and that he did this to other people, and he did it so easily. Like, you know, it was very depressing.
Well,
I went through some depression because of it.
Right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but if there's another thing that I can say, there's 2 really good positives that came out of this. I know, who knows if you get your money back. I'm not, I wouldn't hold out too much hope, even if it's $30 a month. But number one, he's not going to do this at all for 10 years. So you're saving 16 people every 2.5 years per the average, right? Not assuming that every single one of them came up against him. There was probably a few that he got away with. So there's that. The other part is he's going to, whether or not he learns the lesson in jail, he's going to pay for that lesson.
Yeah.
Now, there's no getting out of it. So
that's true. And I told the judge that too. I said, no, I don't know what, I know that it's all in her court, but I said, I don't want him to do this to anybody else. Yeah. Because he knew the loopholes. He knew. So just a big con man. Big. I could suggest that if the district attorney can't give you the investigating officers, because there was 2 of them, just can't remember their names right now without going through my notes. I think one was with the Better Business Bureau, that he got involved with them then. And then the other one, I think, with the district attorney. So there was two of them.
So the Better Business Bureau actually initiated an investigation?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't catch that before.
They're the ones that turned it over because there were so many victims on the one person. Because normally they don't, because what is it, $5,000 or something that, they won't do anything. You have to take them to court and all that. I don't know what the money amount is, but he knew that. So he always played to that amount and below.
Yeah.
So he used that to his benefit. And the fact that he didn't get away with it, that he got 10 years and there's no parole. Yes, he'll get time off for good behavior and blah, 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 and time served. I don't care. I wanted him to do time in jail. I didn't want him to do this to anybody else. Restitution, I'm not going to count on it. It would be nice if we got restitution, but just the fact that she laid that all out there and exactly how much he owes.
Yeah.
And that he has to, I think she said he has to put in a job application at least 10 to 15 a week. And he has to show proof of that. Otherwise, she said, you'll be back here in front of me and you'll go to jail. And I was like, oh, this girl does not play. I like her.
Well, that's assuming she's going to be there in 10 years, but
Yeah, they'll look at the court days. That's the whole thing. At least it's all on paper or electronic. It's trackable.
You don't know who you talked to you don't know what the name of the person was at the Better Business Bureau, do you?
I have all that in my notes. I'd have to dig all that out.
Yeah. If you want to text that, that to me later, I'll interface with them too. They probably won't say much, but it's worth a shot.
Hey, it's a public Better Business Bureau public record, so. Yeah.
Well, that's worth a shot.
Because it was so personal, I've not had a hard time remembering stuff. I really have not.
Yeah.
So just that feeling, I'm telling you, when we walked out of the courtroom, it was like on cloud nine. It was amazing. Like justice really happens, So
oh, that's good.
It was a nice way to close that chapter of my life and not worry about it anymore. I still have cabinets sitting here, but
it's good to have closure. It's good to know that you did something. It's I'm sure good to know that this prosecutor, for her to know that awesome. that she helped you guys. So
yeah. Well, because on my own, I wouldn't have made a difference. I could have taken him to civil court or whatever. It would have just been one little thing to him, a little hiccup.
Yeah. Well,
but the fact that we collectively were together, that was awesome.
After I interview everybody, I plan on calling the jail and talking to him.
Are you?
Yeah. Do you have any questions for him? What should I ask him? If he was sitting in a room with you, what would you ask him?
I'd ask him why. Why are you doing this instead of making an honest living, instead of taking honest people's hardworking money? Why did he feel entitled to my money? And how honestly did he think he was going to get away with it? I don't get it. I don't know.
What?
And I might think of something else. I might text you or whatever, because I'm a thinker. I got to sit back and think about things.
Yeah, you're like me.
Yeah. I have to sit back and think about things.
Yeah. Hey, while you're thinking about that, think about this too. And this is kind of a deeper question. Would he or could he ever give you an answer that would make it make sense for you? And would you accept that answer? Because you never know what he's going to say. Or I never even know if he's going to talk at all. But if he does, Well,
here's the thing for me. I'm an educator. And so no matter how much of a pain in the butt a student is, the next day it's a brand new page, right? So would it mean that I would, forgive him or look past that? I'm also a logical thinker. Like, would it be nice to have a reason why. Like, I was down and out and we were just struggling for money. I could probably see it. Would I accept it? I don't know, because he kept doing it, That's a really good question.
Well, think about it. Think about what. Yeah. Put yourself in his shoes and maybe think through his eyes, but with your brain, and say, what answer would he give you that would make it understandable and acceptable for you? I'd be interested to see what that answer is. Might never get one, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
no, that's okay. Well, would you do me a favor?
What's up?
Can you text me those questions so that I have them right there and I can visually see them and think about that? Can you do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I'll trade you texts. I'll send you that one if you send me the, what were we hoping for? The document?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll do that this weekend. Yeah. And then I've got the hurricane or tropical storm coming our way, so who knows? Who knows?
Well, don't lose your kitchen over this, okay?
Oh, no, my kitchen is, I've got this room, that's my dining room, I haven't been able to use in 2.5 years because what I have is sitting there. I bought the sink to replace it, the range hood to replace it, a new light fixture. It's all sitting there. Yeah. And it's taking up one whole room in my house that I could be using for anything. But I contacted other contractors and even people like, oh, I know someone who might be able to. They didn't want to touch it because, number one, they didn't take the measurements. Number two, they don't even know where the cabinets came from. Yeah. And they're nice-looking cabinets, but they didn't want to be responsible. So what I have is trash.
Well, you might be able to sell them, or what else? This might be an interesting idea. Since while you were talking, I was thinking, I wonder, if that company down in New Orleans isn't willing to do anything, maybe someone hearing this podcast and is a contractor would be willing to help you out. We'll see. We'll see if we can't get something that way. And
I like the idea of
if they do,
somebody contacting that company, because I have their phone number and everything.
Well, send all that to me. But if we can get a contractor to help you, I will give them a free commercial on the show.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'll run it for a full month.
Okay. That'd be great.
So I'd be happy to do that. All right. Well,
like I said, I don't have everything. I don't even have the countertop or the granite countertop. I wanted nothing. So that part of it I never got. Just part of the cabinet. Yeah. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you talking. Yeah. I appreciate. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, but there was some good that came out of it, and maybe in some cosmic way you were put into this to serve that better good to help turn this ball around or turn the.
And I believe in karma.
You know what I mean?
I really do. Whether we see what happens or not, I believe in karma. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, anything I can think of, I'll send you. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You do the same. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you've been enjoying hearing from B. For our next vote, I'd like you guys to tell me who you'd prefer to hear from first. And this week's vote actually has 3 options. You can hear from the attorney who prosecuted the case. You can hear the concluding episode of Micah's interview, which is actually pretty funny, and she and I go down memory lane from having grown up together. Or you can hear from the Better Business Bureau, who initially found and turned the case over to the authorities. They have a super interesting story to tell, and probably my favorite part about that interview is that they offer tons of advice on what you can do if you come across a scam like this in your community. So there you go. Head over to twitter.com/Kyle O'Donnell and vote. That particular survey should be up right now, but it won't last forever. So make haste. Small Town Justice is a production of Legally Insane Films, LLC. All rights are reserved. Until next time, my good brethren, go legally into the night, but don't go insane.